and welcome to another special episode of the Family Beast Podcast. My name is Jake, and I'm here with Kent. Kent, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit so people hearing or watching get to know you a little bit more?
Yeah, my name's Kent Bass. I right now live in Wake Forest, North Carolina, but I'm originally from Southern Illinois. So grew up down kind of close to where Missouri and Indiana, Kentucky, and Illinois all meet. So down there, way south, and but been out in North Carolina for about 10 years now, and I currently serve as a counseling pastor at Imago Dei Church in Raleigh, North Carolina. And married. My wife's name is Hope, and we've got four kiddos: Silas, Anna, Grace, and Asa, who's 3 months old. So got a lot of fun in the house.
Yeah, it's worth just saying. A 3 month old while homeschooling is it's something else. So again, props to wife for doing that.
Super mom for sure.
So I knew the Southern Illinois thing for sure, but how does that? So you're a Cardinals fan. How does that? And obviously geographically, it's close, but how does that come to be? How did you become a Cardinals fan?
Yeah, I guess born into it. You know, my dad's a Cardinals fan, and so I don't know if I've ever asked him how he became a Cardinals fan. But yeah, where I grew up was only about 2.5 hours from St. Louis, and so definitely a shorter drive than the 6+ to get to Chicago. So, but my mom is from Chicago, and she kind of grew up in Cubby land, but was never a big enough of a sports fan to like really embrace that. And so when she married my dad, it was not hard for her allegiance to shift, because his fandom was much greater than hers. So
yeah, so that might be interesting because I know how my dad became a fan, but maybe that'd be just a further on conversation with your dad, just asking that question. But seems to be that kind of is a pattern with people just kind of inheriting. And then also the geography doesn't hurt, but so there was never a time when you were interested in some other team.
No, I've always been, for as long as I can remember. Yeah, I think my first experience of the Cardinals was, I remember being at a game when I was little, like probably even less than kindergarten, maybe like 3 or 4. I remember going to the first game. And so yeah, it's always been Cardinals in our house, and never kind of like interested in terms of being a fan of other teams. Was always pretty St. Louis focused.
So I'll get to that in a second, but so with your family, are you planning on passing down fandom? Because I know there in North Carolina, there's no pro baseball team, but are you planning on passing that down in some way?
Yeah, it kind of has already happened. We didn't really try, but I guess just as my wife loves baseball too, and so she kind of inherited. She grew up in Virginia, so before the Nats, were in DC, so she didn't really have like a baseball team. And so when we got married, she kind of latched onto the Cardinals, and she's a huge baseball fan now. But I think just an hour following and watching our 8-year-old son has become a huge baseball fan and a huge Cardinals fan. So we didn't really try. We didn't kind of say like, hey, you're going to be a Cardinals fan or whatever. But so he's kind of embraced St. Louis Cardinals. But yeah, being in North Carolina, he also likes to know what are the sports teams kind of in North Carolina. And so he, from a football standpoint, like he likes to cheer for the Panthers, and because they're like a home state team. So he's kind of got this strong geographical kind of impulse, like, if there are two teams playing in a random sport that we're watching on TV, he'll say, which one's closest to us? And so I'll say, this one. And then he's like, okay, that's who I want to win. So he kind of likes the idea of geography. But
yeah, that makes sense. But no, so you talked about going to a game like before kindergarten. Is that your earliest memory of the Cardinals, or was they even? We don't have a lot of memories really before 4 or 5, but is that your earliest memory? is
Yeah,
going
I
to a
think so.
game?
I think it being at a game, I think I remember kind of what that felt like and what that looked like before even following them on TV or having baseball cards or hats or shirts or whatever. So yeah, I have this memory of kind of being in the stadium and what it looked like and felt like the first time. And I mean, I grew up in a small town, 4,500 people, and
Mm.
so I remember walking into that stadium and it was 40,000 people, and it's just like this is this is big. So and it still
Yeah.
feels big when I walk into a stadium. So
So I kind of off topic, side note, but when was the last time you were at? So I know you're a ways away, but when was the last time you were at a Cardinals game?
yeah, I think um, it was definitely before my wife and I got married. So we just
Mm.
had our 12th anniversary, and so I don't think I've been to a game since like maybe 2009, 2008, 2009. I remember we were I think we might have been engaged. So it was probably 2009. She was out visiting, family in the Midwest, and we went up to St. Louis, and a bunch of us went and saw a game. So yeah, it's been
Mm.
like maybe 13 years. So yeah, but I have seen them in person. I went to a Nationals game
Oh,
about
yeah.
9 years ago, 9 years ago or so, and so we saw them play in DC. But it's been a while. So
It's been a minute. I
yeah,
mean, I can't say that I've been to a Cubs game recently, but either way, and now being in California, it really doesn't help with the commute. But with the new schedule of every team
yeah,
plays every team in the league, the
yeah,
Cubs again. I promised I wouldn't do it, but the Cubs are kind of going to play in San Diego, and they're playing both LA teams, so it gives me a
yeah,
chance every year or something. So
yeah.
look forward to that,
That new schedule is benefiting you in a good way. So
right?
yeah,
Always, it just seems like it was just given as a gift. That's all I'm saying.
meant to be,
Um,
meant to be.
yeah, but we talked about Irby's memory, but what I know the Cardinals have 11 World Series titles, which again, as a Cubs fan, that's hard. But you've had 11 World Series titles, plenty of other like pennant wins, tons of division titles. But what would you say is kind of in your fandom the kind of highlight or like the moment that stands out?
Yeah,
Either growing up or recently, what is something that stands out as a memory that you will have or that you do have right now?
yeah. It's a good question. I mean, I remember I was in college in 2006 when they won the World Series. So I was,
Yeah.
born in '85, and so the '90s were not a great decade for the Cardinals. '96 is still. I remember '96 is still painful. I believe it was '96, up 3 games to 1 in the NLCS on the Braves. And the Braves, they threw Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz at us, and boom, 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 three
Yeah.
straight wins,
Yeah.
and we're done. So that was like my earliest kind of painful baseball memory was like feeling like, oh, here we are on the verge of going to the World Series
Yeah.
and those Braves.
But
But I would
what's
say,
a good memory?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So two stand out. One, like I said, was 2006, like the first time the Cardinals were in the World Series that in
Yeah.
my lifetime, and watching that in college, and had a projector kind of up on the wall of the college house that we lived in, and so that was kind of fun to experience that. And um, Wainwright striking out in the NLCS, striking out Carlos Beltran to end it, and then striking out Brandon Edge in the World Series to end it. So that was awesome. And then I think in 2011, I think it was whatever game it was, maybe Game 3 or Game 4 when Pujols hit 3 home runs against the Rangers. I remember
Yeah.
kind of where I was in the house that my wife and I were had been married for a little over a year, and she had gone to bed because I think the game was in Texas, so it was a little bit later for us start time. So she'd gone to bed, and I kept like running, like I was like a little kid, man. I was like running back, like waking her up, like he hit another one, And so
Yeah.
I remember that was a pretty fun moment to experience and watch that. So
Yeah, I would have. I mean, winning a World Series, I've been graced enough to experience it, but so that's always great. But there's certain memories. I would have, if I was a Cardinals fan again, which I'm not. The home run
There's
that
still
upper.
room. There's time. You can come on over.
I mean, we'll get to this question later, but the Cubs would have to really do something to make me not follow. But the two memories that kind of stick out as a Cubs fan of the Cardinals franchise is just for some reason Albert Pujols hitting that home run in Minute Maid Park, where it seemed like the ball was like shot into space.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
You got
then
throwing off Brad Lidge. Yeah.
yeah, and he was good at that time, and his career rarely went down.
Yeah.
But no, the other one is the 2011 World Series because I was in college in Missouri and it was like packed. It was shown pretty much in all the dorms and all the whatever all places. But I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the third baseman that year was Adam Freese.
David Freese. Yeah.
David. David.
Yeah.
Close. All right, so
Cubs
David
fan.
Freese.
You shouldn't have to know that. Yeah.
Well, I should know that because he actually went to my alma mater.
Oh.
So there, I should know something, but it's all right. I mean, I know Max Scherzer went there, so I won't get too much crap for that. Um, but I mean, you guys have had tons of memories, so I don't like put it past you. I have to look to like games in '98, so we're not
Yeah.
getting there. But
Yeah.
a question is as a young kid growing up as a Cardinals fan, who was your favorite player and
Yeah.
why? Relate.
Yeah. The why question is harder to answer. I don't know if I know why,
Mm,
but the first player I remember enjoying watching was kind of the tail end of his Cardinals career was Willie McGee.
mm,
I was a big Willie fan. Obviously, like in the '90s, Ozzy was kind of like coming like toward the end of his career, and so like he was
right.
always a fan favorite. But I really loved Willie McGee. I loved kind of how he just did things in like a weird, awkward way, but he was still really effective and good. Like
Right.
he did not have a batting stance or batting style you would teach anyone, and kind of played like an awkward outfield. But he was good. Like he's a great player. So it kind of started with Willie, and then more into the '90s when I really started following closely and I got a little older. It became Brian Jordan.
Mm,
I loved his power speed kind of combination. He also was playing in the NFL a little bit at that time, so he was strong, he was fast, he played the outfield. So I really liked the way he played. So I guess that would be why, but I can't really pinpoint like why did they become my favorite. But as I reflect back now, I'm like maybe this is
yeah.
what I liked about him. So
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't. I would say that would be kind of the individuals I would suspect, but it's not bad by any means.
yeah,
So those are your favorite players then. So now when you look at this team this year, who's your favorite player to watch like this year that people can turn on their TVs and see right
yeah,
now?
yeah, great question. That one's almost harder. I feel like because I follow so much more closely now,
Mm, mm,
and I've got a couple guys up at the top. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with Wainwright
mm,
because uh, I I really appreciate the way he is. He's obviously super competitive and still really good, but he's really good in a way that I think is different than other guys who are really good, where the talent is kind of upper echelon. For him, it's like he doesn't throw super hard. He's still got a good curveball, but like I think he just maximizes all of his talent in a way that clearly not a lot of other pitchers do when they're 41. Like there's not that many guys pitching at 41, and so I really
right.
appreciate the attention to detail and his competitiveness, and you really see kind of where maybe like the talent level has fallen off. He's certainly not throwing as hard or as sharp as he did when he first came up in 2006. But he's still good and effective. And I think it's one of the reasons why I like baseball is because you can see talent and skill is not necessarily so closely related to athleticism, like in a lot of other sports, which, kind of gives me like something relatable. It's like I couldn't play professional sports, but like there's a way in which hard work can kind of still pay off, and so yeah, I really like that about him.
Good. So you're not seeing Albert Pujols. I know it's his last year, but you're not seeing him.
No, like I mean, it's been fun to have him back. Like I'm glad he came back. But it's been a fun storyline. But yeah, I think if you make me pick, I'm gonna pick Wainwright. So
Okay. No, I mean that's fair. By chance, did you see he was mic'd up before he played the game recently? Did you hear what he
yeah,
said?
Wainwright.
Yeah.
Yeah, his whole pregame routine, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I love as someone who was super superstitious, the idea of someone of that caliber teaching younger guys the way to go about routine versus superstition. I thought that was great.
Yeah,
Um, and Yadi Molina and Albert Pujols were leading the team. I think is really a fun thing this year.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
it's been great.
but as a general, but just maybe it seems like a weird question to ask. But I've thought about this as far as the Cardinals are shaped, like their team structure. Um, what are your thoughts about how they're structured right now as a team? Because when I see it, I see young players who haven't been in the postseason much, but then you also have these old veterans. What do you think of the team structure as it is right now?
Yeah, I like it. I think there's a good mix. I think there's a lot of value in having guys who have been there before, who can kind of create expectations and set expectations for younger players who haven't experienced that. You can kind of teach them what to look out for as playoffs get closer and you're coming down to the end of the season, and how to prepare yourself, and certain patterns of thinking maybe to avoid that aren't helpful and can be
Right.
distracting. So I think there's always value in having veteran players who have been there before. But what I love the mix of youth, and I think just as an organization, one of the things I love about the Cardinals is they clearly maximize talent. They haven't picked toward the top of the draft in a long time, and so they're not coming out with top 10 draft picks, but they continue to get the most. I think their player development, kind of staff is obviously done a fantastic job, because they're taking, fifth and sixth and seventh and 10th and 12th round players, and not a lot of percentage wise 12th round guys are having major league careers. And it seems like every year the Cardinals are, bringing up a guy from AA or AAA who was drafted in the seventh round or eighth round, and they were never a
Right.
top 100 prospect, but they're maximizing kind of talent. And so, so yeah, I like the way their rosters is kind of built and structured right now. I think they've done a great job too, um, with their minor league development, because for the first time in a while they've got six or seven guys in the top 100, which I can't remember the last time the Cardinals had six or seven top 100 prospects. And so they're clearly doing something right in terms of their drafting, but also in their developing. So I think they've got a good mix at the major league level right now with kind of veterans and young guys. So.
Yeah, I mean the as I go around the diamond, and I think about their players. Pitching is one thing, but their position players like Tyler O'Neill, Carlson, Newbar. Is it Newbar? I feel like I almost messed that up. Is it Newbar?
Newtbar, yeah,
All right, sounds like a granola bar. So Newbar, Edmund, um, and even Gordon plays second base, even though he's not a second baseman. And then you have
yeah,
Arenado and Goldschmidt, who are the exceptions to the young guy, old guy rule in St.
Yeah.
Louis. But yeah, but of all those young players on the team right now, who would you say has what one player has the most upside right now that's
Yeah.
on the team?
I think the most upside to me would be Tyler O'Neill, simply because when healthy, he's a guy that could hit 30 home runs and steal 20 bases, and he's already won 2 Gold Gloves. And so I think in terms, the when healthy part's been the issue, because he's definitely struggled with injury. But I think, yeah, in terms of the highest ceiling, you got a guy who can hit 30 plus home runs, steal 20 plus bases, and play Gold Glove caliber outfield. I think it's pretty hard to beat that for a ceiling. So I
Yeah.
think he's got the highest upside, but I don't know if he's highest ceiling. I don't know if he has the highest floor because of the injuries.
Mm,
And so I would say the other guy that I would maybe insert in there would be probably Tommy Edman,
mm,
because of his defensive versatility, and I think he's shown a better job this year of being able to get on base. Like his on base percentage last year was not very good, but he's getting on base at a little bit better clip. I don't think he's ever going to be a 300 hitter, but I think he can hit 260, 270 and get on base, at a 350 clip. And then he's, clearly played Gold Glove caliber defense now at two different positions, at second and at shortstop. And so he can play second, he can play short, he can play third, he can play corner outfield spot. So I think his floor is higher because he's going to be on the field more. But I think if everything's equal and everyone's healthy, I think O'Neill provides the most upside. So
well, he definitely provides the most upside when it comes to bodybuilding, for sure. He
you got
fills
everybody
out
beat
that
on that.
uniform. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So you didn't mention Carlson. I just thought about the conversation we had a couple weeks ago about Carlson possibly being involved in, again, hypothetical trade
yeah,
package for Juan Soto. So if Carlson and some of your prospects are not um, ha- going to be the individuals with the most upside, what are your thoughts about the Cardinals if they were even possibly trying to go after Soto?
yeah.
Is Carlson worth holding on to even if he doesn't have the most upside?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think because it wouldn't just be Carlson, it would be Carlson in addition to the others. Then that's where I
Right.
say it's probably not worth it. However much Soto's worth in 2.5 years, it's significant. But if you take the 5 years of control you have with Carlson, and the 6 years of control you have with other players in the minor leagues, and you combine that production together, like it's probably going to outproduce the 2 years that Soto gives you by himself. And I think, more than other sports, baseball is such a team sport that you need all those pieces. I think the Angels are a great example of that. Like, they've had Mike Trout for how long? Now they've had Ohtani, and
Uh,
like they can't
right.
get to the playoffs. So I think Carlson has high upside. I think he's going to be really good. You made me pick one player, so I had to pick one.
Right.
But
Right.
but no, I,
That's the
I think
point.
Carl. It's not a fair exercise, man. I gotta have choices. No, but
Yeah.
I do think he's got high upside, and I think he's going to be a good major league player, and I think he already has been. It seems like he's been around for a while because he debuted in 2020, but he's only 23, I think. So I mean, he's
Yeah.
still not even hitting. He's still not even hitting the prime of his prime, and so I think there's a lot to be excited about as a Cardinals fan.
I mean, also in fairness, Monsanto is 24. So,
Yeah, 23, 24. He's young
in
too, but I think the Cardinals weren't going to extend him. The Cardinals are not shelling out $500 million deals, and so at best you're getting him 2.5 years, I think. So yeah,
genuine question, and I'm sure that like you're not in the front office, but it's like a practice for the Cardinals to not sign in big deals for either young players or star players who just had their like peak. Um, why is that? it seems like the Cardinals could do that. Like, as an example, Aaron Judge is coming off. We'll get to him in a second, but like he's coming off, and he will come off an incredible year. And the Cardinals, if they wanted to, if they were willing to pay it, like could put him in a shorter deal for higher AAV.
Yeah,
But it's why don't the Cardinals do that?
yeah, that's a good question. I'm not in those conversations.
Why do
Yeah,
you think?
yeah, that's a better question. Well, they went after Stanton a few years ago, and they were willing to take on Stanton's contract, and so I think they tried to sign David Price, and they knew that was going to be a big free agent deal. So I think they've shown a willingness to at least kick the tires on things. I think though, again, from my perspective as a fan, it seems like the organizational philosophy is not to get hamstrung with a contract that doesn't allow you to add pieces as necessary. And so because there's such a kind of build from within and from the minor leagues, and that you need all those pieces to kind of put together a roster that can be competitive. And so I actually appreciate that as a fan, knowing that the Cardinals aren't going to sell the farm probably and go for it. But what they're going to do is they're going to put a team on the field that can compete for a playoff spot, and potentially, even getting further down the playoffs almost every year. I mean, I think they've had one losing season in the last 20 years. And so I appreciate that as a fan, where spring training rolls around, you're waving me off. As a fan, hope springs eternal in spring training, but that's a false hope for a lot of teams. But I feel like as a Cardinals fan, like that's a legitimate hope that this should be a team that competes for the playoffs. And so I like that there's not a sell off the farm for the sake of going for it, so that we can have competitive teams every year.
I do have to say that what you just said felt like an attack, like it's a false hope. But I'll let it pass. All right, so um, we briefly mentioned Arenado and Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt might, he probably won't, but he might win the Triple Crown this year. Arenado will win a Gold Glove, but in your mind, I'm not talking about the award, but
Yeah.
of those two players, who do you think is the team MVP? Not the season MVP, but is the team most valuable player? Who do you think
Yeah. Yeah.
of those two?
I'd say Goldschmidt, not because of the numbers, but because of the way his teammates talk about him. So when you listen to interviews, I mean, even Arenado, the way Arenado talks about Goldschmidt, everyone talks about how he sets a tone for the rest of the team. He leads, not just leads by example, but he does seem like more of a quiet leader. But things I've read and listened to, he's vocal when he needs to be vocal, and people listen to him when he speaks, and he's not afraid to talk and verbalize what needs to be verbalized. So I think just the way that he plays and the way he goes about it, clearly players on that team look up to him and look to him and see him as a leader. And so I would say, for those reasons, it seems like that would be the team's vote of him. So it'd be hard for me to say, they're around him every day. It'd be hard for me to pick someone else. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, I think it was a recent interview, or sideline interview Arenado did, where he said that Goldschmidt was the MVP, no doubt, or something like that. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, someone who's willing, this is again personal, is someone who's willing to say the other guy is more valuable. That guy himself is
Yeah.
he's also putting more value on himself by kind of
Yeah.
pushing the honor onto someone else. So
And you
yeah, I
see that
mean,
with Goldschmidt. Every time someone asks Goldschmidt about himself, he always defers to his teammates. And so I think you see that very same thing in Goldschmidt, which is cool to have guys who are not. It's not wrong to receive compliment, obviously, but
right.
you see their willingness to defer and to deflect, and I think they're both as good as they are and as good as their individual numbers are going to be, not just this year, but have been for their entire careers, they also seem to be like team first guys. They care way more about team success and want to talk more about team and teammates than they want to talk about themselves. So that's refreshing. And I think I think that's part of the culture of the Cardinals, which is, I think, one of the reasons why they continue to be a successful organization, is because there's something going on, in the depths of that organization that kind of nurtures that and brings that out and cultivates kind of the team orientedness of players. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. A player who won't win the MVP this year, I can make the argument he might be the comeback player of the year. But Albert Pujols is now 5 home runs as we speak. I'm not sure when this will come out, but as we speak, he is 5 home runs away from 700. The question is, what's a bigger deal in the long view of history? Albert Pujols this year hitting 700, or Aaron Judge arguably being the first one to clear 61 home runs with no allegations? Which one is a bigger deal in the landscape?
Oh
700 or 62 3?
man, what a question.
That's what we got here. We got questions, and hopefully
Man,
you'll
why do
go,
you,
okay.
you can't ask those hard questions like that? That's not. I want to say they're tied. They're equal. Gosh, I'm gonna go with even as a Cardinals fan, I'll go with Judge,
Mm,
simply because of when those numbers were. Clearly, Pujols is doing this over the course of a career that has only been done a few other times. Like, it takes
right.
sustainability, and that's impressive in its own right. But I think there would be something special about Judge as a Yankee hitting, 61 or 62. I think it's been 61 years since Maris hit 61, and so
Of course.
it's just,
Of
but
course.
you can't make that stuff up, right? So, and just recognizing that when that number was broken, yeah, it was guys that were tied to steroids. So, and I think that's the same thing about Pujols, though. Is like there's been no tie for him either, which makes 20 plus years a pretty impressive thing. But I'll go with Judge, and because he's a Yankee and trying to break the record of a Yankee. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 2 episodes ago, again, as we record, 2 episodes ago, my my brother made the argument that it would be that should be the actual record if he breaks it, and Sosa, McGuire, and Bonds should not be the record. I want to ask you that question because apparently I'm asking too many hard ones on there. Um, but I will say selfishly, I mean not selfishly, as a Cubs fan, Pujols just in his last at bat against the Cubs in his career, he had a home run, a pinch hit, 2 run home run. And while I was like, of course, in that game it was tied 0-0, and he comes up and hits a home run. Of course, he does that. To me, someone, and I'm not it's no slight to Aaron Judge by any means. He's a lot younger than Pools. Um, But the character of Pools on and off the field, and the lack of allegations for this long of a career, and doing this at this age, and it's really come down to the wire. It would mean more to see that
Mm,
happen. I know for the record books, it would mean a lot for Judge to have a historic year, but 700. There's only what it's 4 guys, and that 3 guys before him.
yeah,
Yeah, so
Bonds.
seven
Yeah,
hundred
Bonds,
would
Aaron,
be
Bruce. Yeah,
huge.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I told you, you
uh,
asked a hard question. You made me pick. So
yeah, I mean, I my opinion is I just want him to pass Erod. I don't care about 700, but um, And again, another reason for that. All right, so
Yeah,
we talked about the younger players, and we talked about the future, and I made you pick one guy. I'm going to do that again. So weigh
fair.
weigh whoever whatever you want on there. So you said the player with the most upside is if he's healthy is O'Neal in left field, and Edmund at short. Now it's a shortstop. You want to Gold Glove a second? Now it's a shortstop.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
good enough. All right. So, either the current players or if you know the minor league players who will come up, who is the cornerstone piece for the Cardinals for the next 5, 6 years? Who do you think is going to be the reliable bat amongst this young flood talent?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think for the next 5 years, it's probably Arenado because he's still got 6 or 7 years left. I think they've got him signed through 2027, maybe something like that. So or
Yeah, I think
2028.
I think he may have an opt out because he
He's
was
got one at the end
getting
of this year. End of this year.
yes.
So he said publicly he's not opting out. We'll see. But I would
Oh,
say I would say him if the question is next 5 years. If you want to extend it to the next 10 years, then I would say the Cardinals have a guy who's the number 6 rated prospect in the minor leagues right now in MLB's top 100. Their ranking named Jordan Walker. So he's at Double A, but he's only 20 years old. I think he's 4 or 5 years younger than the average age of most Double A players.
right.
And if you look at his numbers, he's already in the upper echelon of Double A guys in terms of average and power. He can steal bases. The Cardinals have not had a prospect like him in a long time. So
Right.
he seems really close. Like it would not be a surprise if he starts 2023 on the big league roster. If he doesn't, it's probably coming in the middle of April when service time manipulations are passed and they can do that.
You,
So
you mean
um,
you mean 2 weeks after opening day? That's
the
pretty much how it works.
whatever it is, yeah, the Chris Bryant rule, whatever that is.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so sorry for that. So I would
No,
say
you're
if it
fine.
goes beyond if it goes beyond 5 years, I would say probably Jordan Walker. You never know. Like guys have great minor league numbers and they come up and can't produce, but
Right.
he seems like one of those guys that he's at 20 years old. The sky's the limit. So I'm pretty excited about him as a Cardinals fan.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I won't lie. I haven't heard of him. Well, also, I don't know many players outside of the players that I focus on in the
Yeah,
minors,
yeah,
but yeah, still, if you're listening or watching, Jordan Walker, let's look out for
Jordan
it. If
Walker.
that name pops up later, just store that name in the back of your mind, and then you'll know Kent's right.
Yeah,
All right. So,
if you play fantasy baseball and you're in a keeper dynasty league, go ahead and snatch him up. You'll want to keep him. So
do you play fantasy baseball?
yeah, yeah.
I again, as a big baseball fan, I like it. Seems really difficult, but this is not a fantasy show, so I won't go into that again more. Um, But the actual question is, and we talked about this earlier about potentially me switching over and being a Cardinals fan. Again, I had no idea how that could happen, but the question is, and this came up very early in our podcast, and they actually came up during the start of the war in Ukraine. I don't know how this question arose, but the question was, what would have to happen for you to stop temporarily or stop permanently following your favorite team? And that can
Mm,
vary, and that can be like a international thing, or it could be national, or a moral situation, or a legal situation, or whatever it might be. But I pose the question because I want to see kind of what would break the fandom. because it
Hmm.
matters. But what would be kind of a one thing or the genre of thing that would have to happen for you to walk away as a Cardinals fan? Again, either temporarily or long term.
Yeah, that's another good question. Categorically, it would probably have to be something in the realm of morality, where I just felt like, in good conscience, I couldn't support, the organization. Now, I say that knowing, like it's easy to forget that professional athletes are actual human beings, and like we put them up on a
Right.
pedestal, but like, they're not perfect people. And so I'm sure, from a standpoint of like how they live their lives off the field, I'm probably not endorsing every decision
Right.
that they make, in the same way that other people might not endorse the things that I do, right? So
Right.
I'm trying to make sure we don't remove the human element of kind of the heroes that we follow, and the sports fans that we are. But
Right.
I would say probably from an organizational standpoint, if something kind of came out that was just like despicable from a human rights standpoint or something like that, it would probably like move me away from kind of support, at least for a while, to see how they respond. I'm
Yeah.
certainly, I don't know that I'm not that kind of hot and cold that I would say I'm done with this forever, never coming back to it. I think
Mm.
if there was something that kind of came out and they responded to it in an appropriate way, like I'm willing to kind of let that play out. Not that they would need my forgiveness or anything like that, but I'm willing
Right.
to kind of say, like, hey, respond well to the mistakes that you make, and I'm willing to give you another shot. But it would have to be something kind of, I think, in that kind of category of like of morality that was that would just, I would have a hard time stomaching or something like that. But apart from that, like, I don't know. I feel like I can compartmentalize, even though I would say I'm a pretty avid fan. Like, I'm not like, the Cardinals don't move me, from a standpoint of like my well-being is
Right.
affected by their wins and losses. I don't like it when they lose, and I like it when they win. But
Yeah.
like, my life's not going off kilter because of something that the Cardinals do. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, also that is spoken like a fan of a team who wins more than they lose. So, I mean,
That's fair.
there,
That's
there
fair.
are days where it's real hard.
Maybe in a few years the Cardinals tank for like 7 or 8 years, and we can have this conversation again. And maybe I'm a Braves fan or a Nationals fan or something. So
I mean, again, in all things being equal, come back to me in 108 and we'll talk. But no, so I get that. No, I do get that. Morality playing a factor for sure.
yeah,
Um, but kind of switching gears a little bit, but really just kind of forecasting for the future. I know the Cardinals are going to be in the playoffs. I mean, it'd be hard pressed to see if they lose this lead in the division. So I'm asking everyone to kind of forecast, and again, I'm not sure when this air, so maybe before or maybe after the World Series. But who is your 2022 World Series champion? Is it the Cardinals, or do you think it's going to be one of these other top 10, top 12 teams? Or maybe we're not, I'm not saying that team come up. Who do you think is going to be the champion at the end of the day?
yeah. Another great question. It's hard to pick against the Dodgers. I mean, you look at what they've done in the regular season, and it's like that. It's unbelievably impressive. But I feel like there clearly are some weaknesses there that could be exposed in the postseason, like particularly the back end of the bullpen. They struggled, with that. Like, that becomes an even bigger deal in a short series that's must win versus over the course of 162 games. So it's hard to pick against them. And similarly, like, I really like the Braves. I think the Braves, top to
Mm,
bottom, are really impressive and are really good. But again, like, back into the bullpen, like Kenley Jansen's, he's shown vulnerability and weakness.
yeah.
Um, I think before the last couple of weeks, I might have said the Mets. because you get short series with a healthy Scherzer and healthy DeGrom, and Chris Bassett's been really good this year. And like, I don't
Yeah.
care who you are, like you have to face a healthy Scherzer and healthy DeGrom. And then Edwin Diaz, has been lights out. Like that's a really tough combination because I feel like, Scherzer could give you 8 easily. And then it's like, okay, good luck against Diaz. So if you make me pick, I'm going to say, for that reason, I'm going to say Mets. Now I know Scherzer just went on the DL or the IL, whatever it's called now. So I think Scherzer's out for a little bit. But if Scherzer and DeGrom are healthy, and the Mets are relatively healthy, I think the combination of, I think they've got enough offense, and I think those two guys pitching, each of them, you're at least going to get them once in a series, if not twice in a 7-game series. I think that's hard to beat. So.
And hard to beat is a light term for that. I mean, Mookie Betts just came out and said that DeGrom may be the best pitcher ever. So again, I'm not sure about that, but maybe right now the talent. So the Mets is a very not common, but is a trending pick. But as you said, the Braves could do it, the Dodgers could. Actually, before the year, I said that the Yankees were overrated, and for a very long time, they were the best, and they are like. But I think as we record, I feel like since the All-Star break, they're like. They have a 333 winning percentage or something.
Yeah, I think they're below 500. Yeah, your prediction's looking better as August and September roll along. So you just give it time, man. Give yourself some credit.
Who would have thought a Cubs fan could pick a loser? All right. All right. So kind of on that note, you did say something about the Dodgers in their bullpen. Again, as someone who came from the Cubs, but also Red Sox and Braves, was Craig Kimbrell. Craig Kimbrell. I always mess up. I say Kimbrell a lot. Kimbrell. Apparently, again, as we record, six appearances ago, he changed his walkout song to. Did you hear about that?
Mm-mm.
His new walkout song is "Let It Go," which I feel like perfectly wraps up exactly what we need to do with this episode. Is just let it go and see what kind of comes from all our predictions. And I'm making you pick one player too much, so I'll try not to do that anymore with you. I will keep doing that, but with you I'll stop. So why don't we transition and end the episode? So Kent, thank you for coming on and talking a little bit about my little Cardinals. I want to talk about that. So thank you for talking about that.
Yeah, I think this has been really good. I think the world needs the example of a Cardinals fan and a Cubs fan being able to engage one another in healthy ways. So maybe we've started a revolution in how we've related to one another. So.
Well, I mean, also it's good acting, so we can chalk it up to either one, either revolution or acting, either one.
It's one of the two, right? I'll take either one, right? Yeah. So thanks for having me. I enjoyed chatting.
Yeah. So again, thanks again for joining us. This has been a special episode of the Family Biz Pod. My name's Jake, and we will see you guys next week. If you are watching, subscribe, hit the bell, all that garbage. If you're listening, follow. If you want to, in the bottom, I always mess it up. The bottom corner is the handles for Instagram and TikTok. You guys can go over there, check out the content. Again, thank you for joining Kent, and see you guys next Wednesday.
Hey, I'm Eden. Thanks for watching this episode of my dad's podcast. Check out the links in the description to follow the podcast on TikTok, Instagram, and the other social media. Make sure you like and subscribe and hit the bell to let you know when there's a new episode. Thanks for watching or listening.